Everybody, and welcome. My name's Alison Pello from People Vision, and we are here today talking about how to digitally detox. And I can tell you, we would love to digitally detox after the morning we've had trying to get this digital stuff together. I'm smiling, but I can tell you it's been a bit of a head spin. So we've got some funky music going on in the background, trying to get the sound levels right so that the old lady doesn't get too much into the vibe. Oh my goodness. So here we are today talking about what is a digital detox, and why it is so good for us. And I can tell you, as I said, we've needed that this morning. And digital stuff is so good in so many different ways, but my word, can it be challenging? But that's probably why we think we need to detox to some extent. So we're going to go on today. I've got my lovely friend with me today, Jo Perusa. She'll be coming on in just a second. We're going to talk about how we can help managers to help their teams to digitally detox. Talk about why it's good. Why is it good to detox digitally? Some 7 ways to digitally detox. I'm giving you some 7 tips. And what changes can you as an individual make? So it'd be great if we could have my co-presenter Jo join me here today. Jo's in a beautiful. Jo looks like where are you, Jo? It looks like you're in the moon somewhere, or something exotic.
I felt like I've been on the moon this morning, Alison, with our digital experiences that we've been having. So I'm in a lovely place called Work Life in Manchester, and a really helpful guy called the Bearded Geek. His name is Jody. Really helped me out this morning getting on this platform. So a big shout out to Jody for being kind. Yes, Jody, we need more people like Jody when it comes to having a digital detox.
Did you tell him we were actually doing digital detox as part of
No, I didn't, but I will before I leave. I'm sure he'll find it highly amusing and entertaining. But he was a wizard, I have to say. The Bearded Geek, he's called. So look out for him.
Fantastic. So, and is his business to do IT support?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Which is amazing. It was meant to be today.
All our fans in Manchester, we hope we will be tagging him later. Hopefully he's on LinkedIn. You need to find out.
Yes, I'll ask him. Yeah.
All right. So now we can gather our thoughts a bit. We're going to go in for a sort of 20-minute chit chat about digital detox. So, what do you think of as digital detox? What does it mean to you, Jo?
To me, digital detox is about that downtime from our devices that I think, over the past 12 months, we've learned to attach to, I think emotionally as well as a physical attachment. Yeah. And I think it's about taking that time out and, just checking in with your families, your friends, and having those conversations rather than continuing just checking your phones constantly, which, you can walk. I walked here this morning through Manchester and you just bump into people because they're on the phones looking down and they're missing so much of what's going on in life because they're looking down and not looking up. And, I think also, that detox is really important because it's like a device is like anything. It can lead to an addiction.
Yeah. So tell me about that addiction and what that might impact an individual. So we're sort of thinking mostly at the moment about people in their work space as well, but I think personally people can be addicted as well. But let's talk about addiction in general first of all, and then tailor it. So what are your thoughts about that? Because I know you come from, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about your mental health nursing background first.
So I was a mental health nurse for 30 years and I actually spent the majority of my career working in addiction services with drugs and alcohol in people that had quite heavy addictions with drugs and alcohol, that they were requiring prescriptions and treatment around their addictions. But I think the thing with addiction is it's quite easy for people to substitute with another addiction. Particularly, even when they're in recovery, unless they take that whole, abstinence kind of path for recovery, I think it's really challenging and people need a lot of support around, coming off their substance of choice. And that would be the
Yeah.
same for a device, Alison, I
Yeah.
think, particularly with young people, that
Yes.
fear of missing out, that fear of, that compare and despair, I call it, when people are looking on social media and thinking, oh my goodness me, that person's life looks amazing.
Yeah.
And where am I at the moment? What's happening for me? It's not that good. And that can really lead to comparison, which can really deteriorate our mental health.
Yeah. I mean, when we were doing research on this, it said that people are, it's the first thing you do in the morning. You pick up your phone, and it's the last thing you do at night. And I just thought, that's me, and I'm 50. What the kids are doing, it's just magnified. So I think, at the time of the pandemic as well, it's something to cling to because it's a way of communicating, isn't it? When we can't get out and normally do what we could normally do, it can be a little bit of a friend to us.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I think digital, what is the impact on someone having some sort of addiction, whatever that addiction might be? What is the impact of that on them?
Well, I think, I suppose with a device, I think it would be that they were kind of really, that device becomes their friend, the way that alcohol becomes your friend, the way that your drug of choice becomes your friend. It's your go-to.
So, what's the impact on the individual of that happening? I mean, I can think of a few things, but what do you see? What are the negatives about that?
So the negatives, I guess, are, kind of choosing to spend time with the device, with the drug, with the alcohol, rather than with people, that not communicating verbally and not wanting those conversations and just literally, constantly scrolling through the devices, and spending hours and hours and hours of screen time.
I mean, have you, as an individual, have you been on TikTok?
Have I been on TikTok? Yeah. I'm not allowed on TikTok because my daughters say I'm too old to go on TikTok. So, but I am familiar. I am familiar with TikTok.
I mean, I haven't spent a lot of time on it because I became very aware very quickly how addictive it is. It is so clever, you just have to sit there and scroll through. I guess what we want to talk more about, of course, today is about managers and how they can support people, because the digital, you had an article that sort of spurred our conversation, didn't you? You had an article about emails being sent after 6 or something. Tell me about that article that you read.
Yeah, so that was an article that's kind of was on. Actually, it was actually on LinkedIn, and it was talking about the requirements really that organisations are going to have to look at in terms of the agile working, and employees being okay about not responding to emails after they finish work. So I think that's been a historical problem, particularly for managers and senior people. I think that I know when I was in that role, I would respond to emails at 10 o'clock at night because I felt that I had to. I felt that actually I need to my manager, my boss to know that I'm good enough. I'm paying attention to what's going on within my workplace. But actually, you can't keep that up consistently without something happening detrimental to your mental health.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think the drive now, particularly with agile working, is that, simple things and that are letting the email recipient know that, I may not reply to this email straight away. I am working these hours. Yours sincerely, Joe Perusa. So it's kind of letting people know that there is a different way of working. Culture of working is changing, but actually managers supporting employees to adapt, I think, to that different way of working and not feel the pressure of responding to an email at 6 o'clock in the morning if they're not working till 9 o'clock. But if they're working at 6 till 3, then people might get an email at 6 a.m.
Yeah. And I think people who are working in global businesses really find this a stretch because they're working across different time zones and things. So I think that the individual, so I think what we're trying to say here is that managers have a responsibility to their teams to say, it's okay don't reply, and to set that culture. And it's also okay, you know, people may be working from home and they have child or care responsibilities. If they choose to work in the evenings, that's also fine. I think it's about the recipient of that email choosing when it's appropriate for them to you know, to respond, if you like.
I think the setting of time boundaries around, you know, the times that we look at our emails and the times that we, you know, are closing our laptops, if particularly if we're working at home, is really, really important, because it's so easy to, you know, finish at 5 o'clock, for example, if that's what you do, and then go back on at 7 just to do that bit more work. You know, without actually that being part of your working time directive.
Absolutely.
You know, I think that's such an easy thing to do for people. And I think because of the pandemic, you know, with the work that, you know, we've done around delivering mental health awareness into the workplace, I think that one of the things that was a real theme throughout a lot of the training was around, but how does my manager know that I'm doing a good job?
You know, absolutely.
You know, and how do I remain visible when I'm actually not visible?
I know. And this whole thing about presenteeism, and what did you call it, leavism as well?
Leavism,
you know? So people and so somebody's very kindly put onto the chat there, it's what we're discussing is the BBC News article. So thanks so much for popping that on there. I just think we feel so compelled, and we want to be liked as individuals. We want to be respected and thought of as excellent at our jobs. So therefore, you know, we must be there and respond really quickly, and people are judging us all the time. And so I think that's I think that's a really good point, Joe. And you know what, we've got some managers. I think sometimes managers don't really want to support the digital detox because it does them a favour, because as good as their team is in responding, you know, they're also feeding it and they're leading in such a way. I mean, what sort of tips I know we're going to do sort of 7 ways to digitally detox, but from a manager's perspective, I suppose emotionally, what sort of tips can we give them in that way, do you think, Joe?
You know, I think it's like anything new that happens, Alison. I think, you know, there's got to be that kind of role model and managers leading that change, really. And I think if the managers, you know, for them to get the support from their managers is really important. But also I think it's around leading by example. You know, and having those discussions with your teams and actually really encouraging them not to feel that compelled to answer emails at 9 and 10 o'clock at night when it's not part of their working hours, that you know, they then don't reply to those emails at 9 and 10 o'clock at night, actually, because that will only kind of fuel the fire as such, isn't it? If I was to send an email to you at 10 o'clock at night, you replied back, I'd think, okay, Alison allows that to happen. You know, then I think it goes back to that boundary, that time boundary, and managers being really clear on their times of sending emails and what they expect in terms of their employees as well.
So also in preparation of today, you know, what got me thinking, when we were on our webinar the other day, we were doing a webinar about introverts and extroverts, and one of the so we were discussing how they're going to feel about coming back into the workplace. And one of the workplaces had set up this thing called Meeting Free Friday.
Brilliant.
So so that actually creates a bit more time for individuals. I mean, I know a lot of people, if they work part-time, they quite often don't work on a Friday. They take that day off. But that's kind of good. I suppose that also rings into the Meeting Free Friday. So as an example, Channel 4, they've done meetings only Monday to Thursday. Their chief exec did that really about a week before the actual lockdown. And it just gives people that time to catch up on emails and to be part of, you know, thinking about the week ahead, and when Monday comes, they're a bit more prepared rather than meeting. So I think that can be as well, once we're in this sort of digital world and everything is on computers and screen time, I should say.
Yeah.
If you're having a meeting, I mean, meetings at the moment equate to being on this for a lot of organisations, not for everything. Obviously, if you're working in many organisations, it would be great. It's great to get your pad and pen out and actually to talk and sit face to face.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, today for us has been an example of where it's all on a digital platform.
Yeah.
For the good and the bad. But yeah, Channel 4 was one example, and another one article I read again about an organisation. They'd done 6 weeks of meeting-free Fridays, and they there had been some anxiety around it because would they fit everything into their 4-day week?
Yeah.
I guess it's more about being organised and building in those time frames, and then there was some the objections to it were, well, can I actually speak to someone on a Friday if I need to sort something out? Does that preclude me from having a conversation? And it's not like, it's more about those regular Friday discussions that need to have. So what do you think, to get into the psyche and the motivation for a manager, what do you think are some of the motivations to some digital detox, Jo?
I think certainly for their own mental health and well-being, definitely, I think that as managers have a stressful job as it is, and they've had a much more kind of stress on them over the last 12 months, but actually for them to be able to take a step back and perhaps look at what their morning routine is, not go straight to your phone, perhaps not even go to bed with your phone in the same room. Try and leave your phone at the door at minimum, if not downstairs, if you can have that anxiety of separation, because I think it feels very much a separation anxiety, because actually our life is in our phone. And I think that's quite it's quite a big thing to get our heads around. It's not something that you can do automatically, but there's such a lot of really good sleep hygiene tips, and that is one of them. About if you're a manager that's stressed and you're not sleeping, maybe you could start by just leaving your phone at your bedroom door if you feel you can do that and it's not too anxious. Then each day just try and move it that little bit further away. But not going on your device first thing in the morning. One of the things that I did for 12 weeks, and it really did change my mindset, was when I got up in the morning, I didn't check my phone. What I did was I journaled for 12 weeks. And what I found was my productivity just shot through the roof.
So what sort of things were you writing on it?
I was just writing those first things that come into your head in the morning. So before the demons start getting you about what the day is going to bring, it was just, and sometimes when I didn't know what to write, I would just write, I actually don't know what to write today, so I'm just going to keep going and seeing what comes into my mind. And before you know it, I'd filled 3 pages. I don't know what that says about my mind. However, what it does is it actually clears our unconscious. To create a healthier thought processes for the rest of the day. Is when we go on our phones first thing and we may be feeling a little bit vulnerable and we start doing the whole compare and despair, it's setting that our mental health for that day. We're picking up perhaps some negative images, perhaps we're picking up some negative thoughts, some feelings about things, or we've checked our emails and it's almost like, Friday's going to be awful. Look at all this I've got to do. How am I going to prioritize that? But actually, when you go in and you're already clear and you set your intention, you go on your emails, it kind of builds up your resilience. And I think that's a really healthy tip for anyone. But I think for managers that have got a really busy, stressful job at the moment. Yeah,
that's good. I think it's mindset. I think you've got to have the will to do it. You really have to have the will. I think there's some really good points there. So maybe we should get onto some of the 7 ways. Where we brainstormed these and we came out with about 21 ways, didn't we?
We did.
Loads of ways for digital detox. But so I'll go with a couple of them, and then you can pick up. So I think one, as an individual, is responsible for one's own notification settings on one's phone's devices. It's really easy. So when my guys that started working for me, I said to them, so I want you to be able to have MS Teams on your phone, but work out your settings, and also setting. I'm quite used to working with people who work on work as at any time of the day, but with the guys, the Kickstarters that just came to work with me, I was like, actually, let's have set times of the day, because then that gives boundaries. Then I know when I can phone you and when you're available. So digitally, that gave them some parameters to work to. So I think notifications, I think you're right, absolutely, about putting your phone away or in a cupboard. Or something like that. I think that those are really good ways. We thought about these mindfulness. I know I did a thing last week with Frank, and we did a bit about mindfulness. I did a live, but your idea around pen and paper.
Yeah, you can't beat pen and paper, Alison. You can't beat it.
Absolutely, and the colouring in. I mean, if you do go to a bookshop, but shops, they've got all these colouring and mindfulness and getting your colouring things out. I'll tell you what I like to. What I found I like doing is cooking. I quite like jam making.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's quite nice. Yeah. So you've got to focus on the boiling temperatures and getting it right and setting it, and so that's one thing that I like, because it sort of takes my mind off, and there isn't a digital thing involved with that. So that's quite good. And then this morning I was thinking of what we were talking about today, and what we did last night, which was to talk about today. And I was digitally on my phone and headphones and this and that, and we were chatting and going, what are we going to talk about? And but this morning when I went for my walk, I thought, no. And I actually focused on throwing the dog a ball. Just in that moment, not having and the final thing for me is actually about having, if you can have headphones as opposed to actually looking at your phone. If you have headphones, you can do dictation. You can, you don't have to. My right eye gets sore, so if I'm on the phone too much, I find that. And then the thumbs and all sorts of things start to fall over. So those are some of my tips. What would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of setting my intentions for the day. Right. And actually, if I go on my phone, and you don't have to do this every day, but if you can choose a couple of days a week when you're choosing to go on your phone intentionally just for something.
Right.
That can make a big difference, rather than the scrolling aimlessly all across social media. I think being clear and setting your boundary with whether it's your colleagues, your friends, or your family, that you're not always going to respond to a text message, to an email straight away, and they don't have to then send you 10 text messages. Have you seen my message? Unless it's urgent, then call me. And I think that's that is a boundary, because if it's something that's really urgent, make the call.
Yeah.
Don't just send a text message or an email, because actually, they may be busy doing something else, and they'll know that pattern of behavior. But actually making the call and picking up the phone and speaking to someone, you're going to have a different conversation. There's not going to be any miscommunication, as there can be through, communication messaging. When you're emailing and you're messaging. I mean, one of the things that happened to me not that long ago, my WhatsApp got hacked, and I actually ended up getting banned from WhatsApp because I reported it. So I think they banned me to protect me. Right. However, I had 10 days of bliss of not being on WhatsApp. No notifications, couldn't get on, I didn't miss anything about WhatsApp, even though I know it's a really good app to have for speed. But actually, for me, that really made me reevaluate the amount of times and what I use it for. So I think for me, that intention has become really helpful. Just and again, pen to paper. There's something chemical happens in our brains when we write things down on pen to paper and not on our phones. Yeah. It makes, I think there's something that happens. Well, there's a lot of research to say there is a chemical that gets released, and we can visually, and we're making more of a commitment to ourselves. So I think they're really, really, really good things.
Yeah, I think that's a really nice thought. I think we agreed also that we can try all these things. We don't commit to doing them all the time. I think there's some really good tips in there. Is there anything else on our little list, Joe, that we wrote down?
I'm just having a look. I think walk and talk meetings for managers could be a really, particularly, I don't know what the weather's like where you are, but in Manchester it's actually sunny for a change, which is a bonus because it's usually raining. But actually, managers to create that environment where you can meet your teams and go on a walk and talk and not even have a meeting, but just see people and kind of welcome them back to work in that way, rather than it being really sterile. Get out. We know that getting out in the open air, fresh air, if you've got countryside around you, even better. If you haven't, I don't think it really matters, but I think there's something about walking and talking, and people will feel more able to open up as well.
One of
when
our
you
clients
walk and talk.
Yeah, one of our clients is in central London. They're right beside Liverpool Street, and they're trying to encourage people back into the workplace. And I said exactly the same thing. I said, why don't you just do a little? Because there's so many cool places around there.
Oh, yeah.
Dirty Dick's is one that springs to mind. It's the pub, incidentally. But you could go on a walk if you go with walking with more than 3 people is a bit awkward in the city.
In London, definitely.
Yeah, but if you're kind of looking around and going, the architecture in cities in general, so I suspect if you're walking around an industrial estate, it might not be so sexy. But maybe you could, if you can, get your teams to a place that is a little bit more interesting, whether that's within nature or with architecturally or different, doesn't really matter. It just gives you a point of reference. Put your phone away and talk about that, and what does that mean, and how just having that vibe.
Definitely. I mean, you brought out the competitive side of me in there, Alison. You see, I'd be setting my team up with a quiz that go and find out all these buildings, and on Friday, whoever gets the most gets a gift.
Nice.
I'd be absolutely on that straight away.
Nice.
I think that's especially when you're in somewhere like London, when you've got so many amazing buildings, brilliant history. A lot of the buildings have plaques on. You can just take a little bit of time and thinking about the area. And also, if people are traveling to work, they're not seeing what's above.
Yeah.
And I think that really makes a difference, just that looking up, not looking down on your device and not being underground constantly, but just looking up and seeing what's around you, because it's amazing how you notice things that you've never noticed before.
Yeah. Well, and that's the case with the pandemic. I'm just thinking, people may be going back to their workplaces and they might find little walks and things around that workplace that they didn't know before. I mean, I found where I live, walks around here. And I think people maybe just explore a bit. So what we're saying is there's some things that one can do as an individual to control, to say no, to create settings, to sort your notifications. There's things as managers to lead by example. And then there's some little tips like I know lots of people have been talking about doing things differently in the pandemic, maybe the learning, the cooking, the speaking another language. And I guess, we feel a shift change as people are, fingers crossed, over the next few months going back into the world of work. So it's just another little time to reset and think about
absolutely
some of those things. So any final sort of thoughts from you, Joe, about the stuff that we've talked about today?
I think it's really important, and I think we often forget this, is that how our physical bodies will tell us when we've had enough. When something is really toxic for us and not healthy for us, we will get headaches, we will get stomachache, we will feel our energy dip. And I think it's about just taking some time out and noticing that, because I know when I need to pull away from perhaps social media, my head's just saying enough.
Right.
And and just putting, so just being mindful of what symptoms and what experiences your body's telling you, because it's telling you that for a reason. It's not there. It wants your attention. It wants to let you know you're doing this, and every time you do this, you're getting a headache, or you're getting in a bad mood, you're getting irritable, you're feeling a bit low, you come away thinking, oh, my life's rubbish, just start to notice the patterns that are forming, because that's going to really help you to make that decision of, you know, that time for that digital detox and what that might look like.
Yeah, that's a really good thing. I suppose just to translate that into managers' thoughts too is often whatever little webinar or piece we're doing, it's about thinking about your team as individuals, a set of individuals, and not everybody wants to go and take the dog walk, do jam, or listen to their tummies rumble because they got bad guts because of something. Not everybody behaves in the same way.
Absolutely, yeah.
So we got to talk to them and say, how are you feeling, what are you doing, what are your triggers, you know. We're not expecting all our managers to be counsellors. We're just asking them to take the time to engage with people. I think that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, that engagement. And, you know, it's just like what's happening for them rather than is everything okay? Because people can say yes and it's not. But it's that changing the language and the language we use to help encourage people open up a little bit more.
Yes,
so, you know, what's happening for you? What are you experiencing at the moment? How are you finding? What, you know, there's loads of different ways of asking how you are without asking how you are. Yeah,
there is. And I think it is all in the listening. Something I'm not brilliant at, I confess. I'm good at talking, you know, I'm super extrovert. So I do have to sort of factor in, you know, right, listen, what did they say? What changes do we need to make? How can we? What does that mean? Why are we doing that? Why are you feeling like that? What do we need to do? You know, the 5 whys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the 5 whys, yeah.
Yeah. So finally, let's not over promise and under deliver, but to ourselves, what's the one thing we're going to do differently as a result?
I think for me, I'm going to continue using my phone with intention.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know I'm benefiting from that already.
Okay. I'm thinking I'm going to take it off, my phone off at night. I've already got it on the, you know, the night thing where there's no notifications, but I think I haven't changed something because we've got family overseas. So sometimes we're getting messages pinging in the middle of the night.
Okay.
So I think I need to change something there and have a time, because I go on my iPad, but I seem to think I've got a different rule for my iPad because that's just about TV.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I know. So maybe I just need to spend more time thinking about how reliant I am on my phone. I think checking into Facebook and Instagram, I'm not so big on, because nothing really is happening so much. You know, nobody's going anywhere. Nobody's on their holidays to Florida like they used to. But yeah, so I think that's a good point about the phone with intention. But listen, I think we've chewed the fat nicely. Thank you, as always, to my colleague Nabil, who is behind the scenes. Thank you. And thank you to Ivana, who has also helped us set up this event. So, Joe, I'm sure we'll do another one soon on some subjects. Yeah. Nabil says no worries. Very clever, Nabil. Very clever. So yeah, we will be putting this up onto YouTube. So we'll get a link for you, Joe, so you can use it in your marketing. We want to thank what was it? The hairy whatnot? What was his name?
He's called the Bearded Geek.
Bearded Geek.
Yeah, he saved my life today. Yeah.
Well, thank God for the Bearded Geek.
Yes, well done. Thank you, Alison. That was great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. So nice, Joe. Have a lovely weekend.
And you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.